London, it's 3DS Meetup TV.
Studio's a mess.
Hello everyone and welcome to our next 3DS London, again virtual. Thank you for everyone who is keep on watching us every month. Thank you guys for all the support, and thanks again for all the lovely faces joining us tonight. Our next 3DS London. My name is Ioanna, and I am your host tonight with Nigel and Josh. And we also have Nikos, who you all know now, and thanks again Fabio and faces have Simon, and we have our two presenters, Kristian and Fabrice. Give us a wave. Hello guys, and thank you so much for agreeing to be with us tonight and present your beautiful work and faces for keeping the society together, even though it's hard to actually be physically together. This meeting every month for me means so much. So thank you again with us tonight. So hi everyone. Keeping the society together.
Well, hello, yes.
Hello. So thank you again with us tonight. So hi everyone. How
Awkward silence.
yes. How is everyone? Silence.
What's
going
on
we're
now?
kicking off this going really well. Ioanna, do you want to
Awkward silence.
Yes. How is everyone? Silence. So tonight we'll start with a quick discussion of what's been going on in the industry and
Awkward
and
silence.
then we'll have our chat as always, see what everyone's doing and how the life tonight and then we'll have Kristian as our first presenter going on in the industry and then we'll have a quick creative chat and say like discussing the things that we've been interested in the last few months. And then we have Simon as our second presenter. And then we won't have cocktails tonight, which is really sad. I mean, we have to practice making all the other cocktails anyway. This is good.
You've been placed on hold. Please wait.
And then we won't have cocktails tonight, which is really sad.
Who's on hold?
I mean,
Some
we
weird.
have to practice making all the other cocktails anyway. Who is on
You've been placed on hold. Please wait.
I think there's some audio. They're saying there's some audio problems or something. I don't know. Nigel, if you know.
Weird.
You can't.
Yeah, so this is our another schedule for
I think
tonight.
there's some audio. They're saying there's some audio problems. or
Yeah,
something.
so how is everyone?
Nigel, if you
Very
know.
good, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh
great.
dear.
Is anyone back to the actual physical office another schedule for
I think
tonight?
there's some audio. They're
And,
saying
A little bit,
yeah,
but
so
not
how
very
is
much
everyone?
recently.
Nigel.
My
Very good.
office is very well sorted out. They've done a great job of making it socially distanced and everything. But it's kind of like this morning I woke up and Wednesday is my turn to go into the office if I want to. And then I looked at how much work I did and how long it would take me to get into the office. And I just decided to do it at home instead.
That's great.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of tricky because I do miss everyone. I miss seeing, I think like everybody, I'm not just talking for myself here, obviously, but it would be lovely to go back to normal, or at least what the new normal is going to be, because who knows? But yeah, it's
Simon, are
tricky.
you sure that it's not just because you haven't shaved for a month?
I'm growing it. You're going to
You've
wait
been
and see
placed
what it
on
looks
hold.
like
Please
next
wait.
month. It's going to be incredible.
There is some.
It's
What
still on
is
hold,
that?
But
Somebody is being placed on hold.
I don't. It's not coming from here.
Maybe it was
Just hang
Tom.
up, whoever
I
it is.
can't tell if that was a ringing endorsement
placed
for my
on hold.
beard or
You've
everyone
been
did
placed
it
on
look
hold.
disgusting. I can't quite tell that. I'm going to say it was a ringing endorsement. I'm enjoying it. It feels nice.
that is very interesting. Okay.
No, I've been working from home since March, so it's become pretty normal. I don't miss the commute. I do slightly miss the separation, the work-life separation.
Yeah,
Being able to go somewhere and not have like a child there.
Yeah.
That must be very difficult.
It was really difficult at the beginning of lockdown, but now it's kind of working its way out and figuring out the distance between closing the door in the room that's 3 meters that way, and being able to.
So I think it has advantages and disadvantages. So like at 4 p.m. today, my friend phoned me and said, "Oh, it's really sunny outside. Let's go to the pub." And I was like, "Okay, nice. I can do that because I'm just sat at home." So I went to the pub, but I made sure to message the project team I was working with at the office. I messaged them on Teams and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry guys, but I'm going to bunk off. I'm going to go to the pub. I'll be sure and make it up later this evening." And they appreciated my honesty. I feel like now I'm a liar because now I'm here. I'm not doing work. I'm having more fun. So never mind. I shall stay up very late working on this lovely block of flats instead. So that'll work out. I would like to.
I'm actually back into the office, so it's kind of actually working out quite well. But it's only 4 people in my office, so I guess it's okay. Everyone is keeping their distance. A lot of people constantly working from home, but it's quite okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got like 120 people who kind of want to be in the office, so it doesn't work like that. So we have to take it in turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually the office is quite, it's lovely going in and seeing people and sticking to our groups of 6 at the pub afterwards. I don't know if that's working or not. But
that is very challenging, I can say. Super challenging. Because everyone want to go to the pub, but then people have to be sensible. So
well, I think we've all got to the point now where we've realized life has changed, whether we want it to or not. And it's probably not going to go back to how it used to be for many years, a couple of years at least. But
yeah, true.
I think Nigel said it last month when I was cooking pasta. But I don't know. I mean, going to the pub is fun, but actually watching Josh's son jump up and down on the sofa is
I was watching that too.
Fun, but it's making me happy inside. So.
Josh, are you giving him sleeping pills?
Doesn't work.
No, he's not. He's saying he's giving him speed.
Teams. He's not going for it.
Just a pint.
That's all right.
I think I'm a living example of why it's difficult to work from home. I think. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to this at the moment. So let me just mute myself while I swear a little bit.
But here I am talking without unmuting myself. For any people who are watching this, who have not watched this before, this is what you should expect.
Just random chat.
and audio problems.
Yeah, this is great.
You know, many audio problems.
We rehearsed this all afternoon.
So I would jump with a little announcement, and I just will encourage anyone who knows anything about people looking for people to hire, just let me know or mention it now here, because you know some people who are watching this might look for jobs, and I want to plug in Ink here. We are looking for CG artists and automotive artists. So
who's we?
Ink. We are Ink. I mean Ink, and I'm from Ink. So if anyone is interested, give me a shout or just email us, or get in touch with us. We'll be interested to hear from you. And if anyone else is having any kind of announcement, just let me know. That was for me.
Great.
So I wanted to say hi to Tom too, who has joined us.
Hey Tom.
another
Hi.
3DS London
Hi.
member.
Hey, Dom.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, very well.
Yeah.
Not much to report, but very well. Yeah.
I have something if nobody else does.
But before you, Jason.
Yeah.
I just wanted to I posted on YouTube today about the announcement of the Rookie Awards and the School of the Year. So there's been some, well, there are 5 schools with the 3D College from Denmark who won again this year. Hopefully we'll get them on to talk to us soon.
Be great.
We had Emil and Mads talking to us, was it in August?
Yep.
But we've got Nicholas, he's following tonight. So I think it'd be really great to get him on sometime in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Nigel,
I've seen some of the work. It's amazing. Sorry, Jason.
I actually have a question, Nigel, about that. Do you know how do they figure out the rankings for the schools? Like, what's the process?
It's quite complex.
Machine learning, AI.
No, most of it was down to the students, and the students' combined score. Then you get a bonus. Okay. If one of your students wins, you get 20 points. If someone is a runner-up, you get 15 points. So it's a combination of a point system,
but it's
by the judges.
So it's like based on the work that has been submitted from the students.
Correct.
Okay.
And the work. It's the scoring.
Okay, so it's actually not really a ranking. I'm just trying to understand it, because it's not really a ranking of like the specific academic values of the school itself. It's more about the ranking within the students who have submitted work to think. Okay, I got it.
Correct.
I got it. I was just curious.
Nigel,
I always wondered.
Can we make a little announcement about the D2?
That's what I
was going to say, actually.
That's now over to you.
I'm pretty excited to hear that the render challenges are coming back.
That's what it was. That's what I wanted to say.
I've got your announcement.
Well done, Josh.
Fabio, what were you going to say?
Ruined it.
Thanks a lot. That's all I wanted to say.
That's what I was going to say too.
Jason, do you care expanding a little bit so that people know what they can expect?
Well, let me ask. What is the render challenge?
Are you asking me?
I don't know what is a render challenge.
Well, we've kind of changed that as well a little bit. So the idea was Fabio started these back during the lockdown, Corona, all the stuff, to give people like a place to, I don't know, flex their creative muscle during this time when everybody was sitting at home. And we have now moved this to the D2, and we're just going to call it the D2 Challenge. It's going to be different each month. It's going to last a month instead of a week. So there's going to be a little more time for people to work on it. And we're going to explore like many different types of things during these challenges. So we didn't want to just call it a render challenge. It's not going to be just about rendering. So that's starting again. It's going to be in October, tomorrow evening at 6 CEST, 6 p.m. CEST. So Vienna time, and Zurich time, we will announce this next challenge with a special guest.
All I can say is that we have. Wait, you cannot see my screen, right?
No. Don't stand up.
No, I'm shopping for underwear, and I have a very weird taste, and so I don't want to share this with the community. But we are going to have an amazing guest. He or she might have a beard or not.
No, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Just come and join us, and then all the info will be posted on the D2 website afterwards.
It's going to be
everything
better.
Fabio, are you shopping for a mankini?
Before you get on to that, I've got a question.
Can he not answer that?
But do you need to be an Archviz artist to enter the competition?
No.
Anyone can enter this competition.
Great.
We don't care. We don't care if you use Excel to create the image.
Look,
5 of us.
Don't
That'd be creative.
mention Excel in this country.
Yeah,
That's a bad call.
We're organizing an
Well, I mean,
Excel competition.
You know, it has to be less than 66,000 rows. Was it something like that? I don't know.
10 billion on a trace software scheme, and they use Excel. Brilliant.
Wasn't even it was even like a very old version, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Technology is amazing.
So on that, anyone can use any technology for the render challenge.
Yes.
I just had an idea though, Fabio. I think that's going to be one of the render challenges, or one of the challenges is to create an image with Excel, right?
Yeah,
like
we should do that. We should do that.
A bonus challenge.
Yeah.
Excel AI.
Have you seen the Indian artist who uses a typewriter?
Oh yeah.
To do portraits.
I've seen people doing it with Excel though. Really weird stuff.
Yeah, I've seen Gundam done in Excel.
We're going off on a tangent.
We certainly are.
I think
Excel Gundam.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on, let's push it back to 3D.
Yeah. That'll be nice.
It's all odds.
No, but actually it's quite good fun because you've all been super frustrated being 3D artists home alone, and now you're sharing your passion about a Gundam in Excel. So I think it's good. This is exactly what this is for.
This is what happens to you, yeah.
I was gonna make another spaghetti dish tonight. There's Fabio though really put me off last month. He was very uncomplimentary about my son's spaghetti eating skills, so I'm not doing it.
Knife and fork.
Yeah. I'm waiting to. I haven't seen it. Because I thought I'm slightly miffed that the Chaos group haven't got those videos up there, because there was some amazing stuff in those 24 hours. So I'm gonna chase them a little bit.
Simon, for an Italian,
Fabio, come on, you can't insult me any more than you possibly did last month. It was
for an Italian. Cutting pasta with a knife, it's like stabbing a British guy with a bottle of Guinness.
That's, I'm not sure that works.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Beating with a beef Wellington.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of people are very excited about my bolognese recipe, actually, Fabio. So you'll just have to wait and see. Apparently,
I know what it's like for the English. It's like not queuing, Fabio. It's like being an Italian and just going to the front of the line.
Yeah.
That is definitely the equivalent.
I don't know.
All right. I got it. Please, can we move on?
Okay,
I think Fabio's upset, but look, at least I didn't put carrots in my bolognese, so I don't know why he's so upset.
Cooking up though, Simon, because that was fantastic. I thought it was a fantastic thing during the event last month. So,
Simon, I'm going to follow up on what you just said. Before we started, we were talking about the videos. So, Chaos are going to launch them soon.
Cool.
They were ready last week. We're just checking on some technical sides of things.
So I reached out to Chaos Group last week to upgrade from Chaos from V-Ray Next to V-Ray 5, and I mentioned that I was in on Chaos 24 Hours of Chaos, and I got a 20% discount. So it was definitely worth all of that spaghetti nonsense, Fabio. It worked out, even if you didn't like it.
Watched a lot of it. Did I get a discount?
That's pretty sweet, yeah.
They said, whatever you do, don't tell anyone about this.
Don't mention it publicly.
They did tell me not to tell anyone about that, but just keep it between.
Oh, good
friends.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep it between us. That's fine. Okay, so maybe we should come back to some 3D chat if anyone feels like it. I don't mind the spaghetti chat, it's great.
Is anyone using 3D anymore? Does anyone in this group use software?
Spaghetti.
I do every day, all fucking day.
I'm using quite a lot.
That's the spirit, Simon.
I actually canceled my Octane Render subscription, and I don't think I've opened Cinema 4D for. It's been a couple months, at least. And it's sad. I want to, but I end up working in Excel all day. You know.
James, it's been so long that now it's called Cinema 5D.
Yeah, exactly. Which version is it now? 10? 11? Yeah, anyway. It's bad.
So is there any software news that we should talk about?
I don't know if everyone knows this, but I think NVIDIA has opened the beta for Omniverse.
Yeah,
recently this week, no?
Which is great.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Sign up.
Anyone hasn't checked it out, then you've got to check that out now.
Yeah,
it's
what's
be
that?
A game changer.
NVIDIA has opened the beta for Omniverse. Oh, sorry, you were joking, weren't you? But
I'm not joking. What are you talking about?
That's a great plugin for Excel.
That's the whole point. That's why you sign up for the beta.
Josh, do you want to explain?
But Josh, you seem to know something about it. What is it? I'm serious.
Yeah. Yeah, come on.
As far as I can understand it, it's a way to work collaboratively, independent of the platform that you're working on.
So I'm talking to them about getting them on to this show and actually doing a live demonstration. So what it will allow you to do is, if I was using 3D Studio Max, and say Kristian, he's on Maya, and then if Fabrice was here in Unreal, a whole bunch of software, you can actually now work in real time on, say, one shot, where, say, Josh could be doing characters, and they're updating in real time in my model. So you can now work collaboratively around the world with anyone you want on any size project. So it's quite cool.
Mental.
On different softwares. That's great.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that sounds super exciting.
What we're planning to try and do is us lot do a live demo.
If it isn't difficult enough to do a live demo in one piece of software, why don't we all
just do it? We're all about ballsing it up. Jason, you can use Excel.
Not on the list. I've just looked on the website. That's not on the list of software.
Somebody's got to manage the shit, right? I mean, like work on the numbers.
You may joke, but back in the day, we used to have an Excel spreadsheet that could drive the building of buildings in 3ds Max.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, I quite like that, Nigel. Feel free to pass that.
Doesn't work as it should.
It probably uses version 8 or 9 or something.
Wow.
Guys, are we allowed to talk about cool shit that we've seen on the internet?
Absolutely.
Did you guys see NVIDIA Omniverse recently?
Are you like an echo?
I'm trying not to.
Were you out of the room?
We just
left the room.
talked about that.
Literally just what we are talking about.
I went for a comfort break. Sorry.
That's
great.
Well, there we go. I'm reinforcing how amazingly cool that was, because I didn't hear you guys talking about it, but that stuff is amazing.
So I'm talking to them about coming on.
Okay, well, that would be really cool, because that's who's beeping. Someone's beeping. It's like a timer. I can hear a timer.
Sounds like a bomb.
Down.
It sounds like a timer.
It's not me.
Well, I saw that NVIDIA Omniverse stuff today, and I thought, I was like, wow, that's awesome. I mean, I'm not going to have a job in 2 years' time, but still, that's fucking incredible. That really is really, really cool.
2 years.
2 years. That's right around the corner.
Well, you know,
2 years.
That's very, very specific.
I'm going to try and stretch it out for the next 20 years. I'm going to try and stay on top of all of this for that long. But I mean, goodness me, it seems like all of a sudden, everything that you've kind of dreamed about that 3D could do, it's all of a sudden, it's just got super exciting in the past year, I suppose. But it's I would love maybe an unscheduled conversation about this isn't the right thing to do. Maybe we could talk about this in better detail next month. But goodness me, the world of being a 3D artist, all of a sudden, it seems to have just jumped forward, and it feels like artists have always been pushing software and you know, wanting new things from it, and all of a sudden it's for me, with my experience, it's suddenly flipped, and all of a sudden the people that are providing us and writing this incredible software, they've all of a sudden said, hey, look what you can do. And I would love to know what other people, definitely people younger than me, definitely people that have been doing it for much longer than me, but I would love to know what everyone thinks about where we are at. It seems like it's taken a long time to get to this point, and all of a sudden it's got really exciting.
Tell you what's not exciting.
I know that Nigel and I well, Nigel and the massive team that helped organise 3DS London will be all over this. But yeah, definitely it seems at the moment that some really exciting stuff is happening in the industry, and very exciting to maybe even if we're not at the sharp end yet, but to try and rope those guys in, get us all involved, and we can share a lot of stuff about it. Nigel, come on. You look like you know more than you want to let on. Go on.
I'm a month into it.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that later.
So I saw a beautiful post of yours on Instagram last night, and it was a clay model of Wembley, and it had it had Wembley Stadium. It looked good. Some of the buildings in the foreground not so good. Loads of buildings in the background. It looked amazing. It was just it was just massing. But I mean, it was just like, wow, if you could have that detail. I mean, you've been without sort of derailing what we're talking about tonight, but you've been involved in that project for 4 or 5 years. It's a hugely economically important project for London and the UK.
4 or 5 years.
Well, sorry,
12.
God damn, that boy's old. 12 years he's been working on that project.
You've been on a project for 12 years.
Right. So I haven't announced it, so I may as well use this to announce it. I'm doing an Autodesk University talk on Wembley Park in November.
Well, that's good news, because that just, I mean, for someone that's been doing this for a long time, just looking at that clay model of Wembley Park and everything, it was, for me, it was like, wow, there's so much work involved in that image. It just, I mean, it's just mind-blowing how much work is in that image. But
Nigel, billion polys.
Can I watch it? Can I watch it without paying $1,200?
It's free.
Yeah, well, it's just a photo on Instagram.
No, I'm talking about Nigel's Autodesk University talk.
Yeah, Nigel's talk is free. The rest of the university costs, though.
The whole Autodesk University is online.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's free.
I think it's free. Yeah, definitely free.
So
that's great.
Anyone can register now. Sign up. There's a few of us doing 3D talks, and mine is focusing on massive master planning projects and bringing what you saw yesterday into Unity. So it's a 7 billion poly model. And there's all sorts of crazy stats to it, but well, actually, I'll bring it up. I've got it on the screen. No, I won't. I'll balls this thing up.
You could do what if you can do it, Nigel. Do it.
Well, maybe later. We've got some great presentations. We've got some much more interesting presentations to get through before I bang on about my stuff.
Should we probably got time for presentations anymore, have we?
Should we probably give the chance to the presenters to actually do the presentation?
That's what we're here for.
They're not now. They'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's just
that.
Go for it, Nigel.
Simon, put the pasta on the fire.
We don't use fire in this country. We use cookers. We've got stoves and all that kind of stuff. We've had them for a long time there, Fabio.
I know. A lot of things that don't make sense to me about England, like separate taps for the water, hot and cold.
Fabio, your baseball cap doesn't make sense to me, but you know, I'm polite about
it. Cutting up pasta apparently as well.
Somebody once wrote me, wait a minute, why you have your name written on your hat? What is
happening? Fabio, you should just you wait and see what I do to a lasagna. You're gonna shit yourself when I sit down and make lasagna.
I feel like next month Fabio should do a cooking presentation.
You comfortably overshoot, and that would probably be enough, I think.
I'm going to shut up. I just want to reiterate the point I made a second ago. I think it's an incredible point in time to be interested in what everyone who is involved in this and watching this. It's an incredible time to be involved in this industry, and I'm amazingly excited about. I mean, I hope I can be dragged along with it as well. I hope I'm interested enough to stay somewhere near the sharp end. But really, it's incredible things are happening, and you know, I've been involved in this for 20 years, and the last year or two have got me super excited. Suddenly, everything I've dreamed of doing seems possible, and perhaps worse than that, it seems possible for people that aren't interested in it as well. So we'll have to see how that goes. But definitely, if you're interested in, you know, if you're a 3DS London member, if you're watching this, I think this is a really incredible industry to be involved in at the moment. And
I absolutely agree. Simon, did you by any chance heard the news about NVIDIA Omniverse?
I heard about that. There.
Okay, let's stop taking the piss. Come on, this is a serious show. Should we just?
It definitely is not.
Where did you get the serious
anymore, Fabio?
Guys, I'm watching the numbers and we've lost a viewer.
So we're done with the past.
It's a show.
Josh, it all went wrong when your son stopped jumping on the sofa.
I can get,
you ran out of juice.
Back up here.
I would suggest to introduce you our first speaker, because I'm really curious of what he has to say. And then we can keep on chatting. And then, yeah.
Let's bring
while he's presenting or what?
Yeah, just talk over me, it's fine.
Please don't. Okay, so yeah, Kristian is a CGI artist, and he is generalist, mainly using Maya and mainly specializing in automotive, but his work is stunning. Go and be hands, find him, he's amazing. I had an opportunity to work with him in the same environment, not on the same project, but he's very inspiring. So hi Kristian, thank you for joining us.
No worries.
Thank you for showing your beautiful work. I can't wait to see it.
it's not all beautiful, but we'll get to that. So yeah, as Ioanna said, I'm Kristian. I'm a CG artist / generalist. If you know me already, it's probably through my automotive or car work, but it hasn't always been that way. So I wanted to kind of show you a little of my career path up until where I am today, based around the 10 years I was at Recon Farmhouse and what I did before and what I'm doing since. So in 2007, London had just won, this is a long time ago, London had just won the Olympics bid for the 2012 Olympics. And I was just finishing university and I had a visiting lecturer from Squint Opera. Most of you probably already know who they are because they're Archviz, and this is a majority Archviz community. And I bugged them like crazy. I was quite young, and when I graduated, I was just on the phone with them and begging for any sort of work. Just a work experience would have been fine. I'm happy to pay for travel to get there. I live outside London. And they said yes. On the second day I was there, because they had this commission for this master plan video for the Olympic Stadium, they needed some extra stuff. And this is kind of how it works out that you get a Maya guy in a 3ds Max Archviz environment, because I can just come out and I've already got the skills to be able to do a certain level of animation and that sort of stuff to add and enhance a standard Archviz video. So I built these big worm metal girder structures to walk across London from Battersea to the Stratford site, and a few other things, including some dynamic simulation stuff, all really basic stuff that I had just about learned at university. The reason that the timing was kind of good for me is that I failed my university degree in the 3rd year and I was retaking. So them getting this project that was useful for a Maya artist the year that I actually graduated, which was already a year late, was kind of, so failure's sometimes okay. So sometimes you get handed this stuff. So we did that, and then after that project, it rolled into another one where they wanted to enhance their stuff with different interesting, or occasionally interesting stuff for their Archviz master plan projects. So I'm going to go full disclosure and embarrassment and show you what my demo reel looked like when I left there in 2008, where there was a financial crash which pretty much ruined the industry for huge scale master plan stuff, and I conveniently broke my leg skiing at the same time, which ruined my plans of commuting to London. So let me show you that if I can share my screen. In advance, I'm going to disclaim the quality of the video. This video no longer exists in its original form. I downloaded this from my Vimeo, which has had maybe 200 views in 12 years. So that's how popular I am. These are the big girder things I had crawling across London. So at Canary Wharf, there's some hard body modeling and design for a dragonfly, some paint effects growing stuff, some motion tracking with Bougie Bullet, and this is some hard body dynamics in reverse, some projected baking stuff. So the kind of type of work was pretty varied across the board, which kept it like super interesting. Each project was very, very difficult? Yes, difficult and different. Some exploding flowers, more flying stuff. This is quite an interesting workflow for the World Trade Center rebuild, where the stuff in 3ds Max was being exported to Maya for me to do the animation, and then once the animation was done, FBX back to 3ds Max to render within their V-Ray workflow. So all this stuff comes up with the Freedom Tower finishing it off. And then some subsurface scattered orchids, because they're pretty. And what's quite interesting now is that all this stuff exists, and I'm actually not so embarrassed by this demo reel when I picked it up.
Kristian,
new.
Sorry to interrupt. When you started sharing your screen, did you hit the magic checkbox that says optimize for video?
No, that's exactly how the compression worked when I downloaded it from Vimeo. I do apologize, but you get the gist that it was 2008 and everything looked a lot worse in HD then.
I mean, it looks amazing. It was just a little bit jumpy, and
sorry.
I wondered if maybe you didn't check.
No, I didn't check that.
If you want to stop the share and then restart and the sharing, there's a checkbox at the bottom.
Where's that?
Sorry.
You can do it from the settings at the top.
Optimize screen sharing for video clips. Go there.
Pro, he can go.
It's okay. You can also restart it.
Oh, wrong one. One sec.
Oh, over on the. That's all. Did you already check it?
Yes, I checked it. Screen 2. Share. Ding. Sorry, let's do that again. Sorry, it's only like a minute long. So. Any better? Any better at all?
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
Cool. Yeah, I won't explain this again, but then we'll jump into some images. So I can explain what happened after that while that's running. So as that job ended, I got offered a job at Visual House, who are another Archviz company, and which didn't last very long because I don't know whether I was lazy or they didn't have to work for a Maya user or I wasn't a good fit in the team. But yeah, I was there for a couple of months. And then out of work and recovering from broken leg, I called up my roommate from university, who is Richard Levine, and he was he graduated a year before I did because I failed, and went to Escape Studios and did some more hardcore CG stuff. When I called him, he was working with a photographer and kind of a master retoucher, Christoph Bolton, at a company called Farmhouse Post, and they were renting a desk in just outside of London Fields, and in the process of merging with Recom in Germany, who were like, and still probably are, the best automotive CGI guys there are. So I started doing some freelance stuff for them, and let me just start this up. And that's me. So I was doing some stuff for them in the evenings, and still I got another contract through from Squint. So I was working the day at Squint, and then I'd travel over to the other side of London and work the night at Recon Farmhouse, and that went on for a couple of weeks, doing 16, 17-hour days, which was stupid, but that's the way youth and the hustle mind works. Towards the end of that, Christoph offered me a full-time position to be a CGI artist at Recon Farmhouse, which was now a 3-person team working off a couple of rented desks outside London Fields. So I would like to go through a little bit of the work. I'm going to shuffle through these quite quickly and talk about my development and development of the technology as I went through. So first things to talk about are kind of the technology that they were heavily invested in, which was Spheron, which include a spherical camera, which took about 2 minutes to shoot an HDR at relatively low res and always full of some artifacts. Came along with a scanned car paint shader and an HDRI dome light plugin for Mental Ray. So the technology of sampling HDRs didn't really exist before this. So yeah, it was very sought after, you know, and now any renderer that you pick up, you can make a dome light and it'll work. And it'll sample correctly based on HDRI values. Not at the time. So at the beginning of this, I had a hell of a lot of hand-holding about how to light vehicles, how to light I shouldn't zoom in on this picture because the texture to the top right pixels are massive. But this sort of thing went on, and if you ignore like perspective. So from the 3 of us in the studio, we were doing like full brochures of these Infinities and other cars. I got introduced to proper high-res rendering. This was 12K, and I couldn't believe how long it took to render just a floor and a wall. Some examples of how the HDRI sort of images were looking coming straight out the can, and then relying on quite a bit of retouch to make sure everything sits and works nicely. And because when I was at Squint Opera, I was basically using the Moir's software renderer. I had to learn the MIA materials and how Final Gather worked and all the basics. So I was very much in the deep end to be able to produce images sort of this quality to match what they were doing in Germany. And then they were very good at splicing CGI with photography. So the photographic elements in this, the spray and the trails behind the surface is full CGI, and this is like scattering ripples and splashes and then lighting the car and that sort of stuff. My first time on a photo set was with this one. So I was in Park Royal in northwest London with Damien Blink. So the car's photographic and the set is CGI, and this is about the 40th iteration of this set that started off as this really curvy thing and kind of evolved into this stealth jet thing. And the purpose of these images was that it went from like this mode and then went to a transparent mode and then turn like an X-ray on the car and be able to highlight different parts of the tech. So it jumps in between a full CGI version and a photographic version. Now that we knew how to do fairly convincing CGI sets, we were doing that and adding photographic cars and experimenting with different dynamics. So this is was using fracture effects, projecting up the backplate image onto dummy geometry and then being able to perform the refraction and reflections correctly, and then lots of Photoshop over the top to make sure that each plane was actually visible. And then some jewelry design stuff. There's a friend who's a jeweler who is now living in Calgary. But for me, this was like experimenting with how good you could get displacement maps working. So the whole surface of the ice is displaced, and then with intersecting surfaces, and the drop-off is done with like refraction, glossiness, and different levels of fog, and then scattering particles to get bubbles in there as well. So it's each exercise is kind of add more, add more, add more. And then there's some like embarrassingly old tech. So we can kind of jump past that. So fluid dynamic stuff, I still think there's nothing quite as cool as shooting IES lights through fog. The technology in this has changed a bit since, but it's still fairly similar. I'm expecting a lot more from Bifrost Aero when it becomes actually renderable. So this is just kind of trying to show a little bit of the range of CGI within this sort of world. So the only CGI things in here are the packaging peanuts. So this is a particle simulation of instance packaging peanuts, and then hand placed ones locally towards the front so they actually sit on the surface properly, because otherwise the rotation of them is randomized. And then with a dummy Tesla in between to make sure we got some nice reflections to overlay onto there. This is my first time using ZBrush to add texture to things, so creating bump maps and stuff for the crease in the leather. Cloth simulation. So I'm trying to kind of ticking boxes as I go through here on the different tech that's required to do maybe advertising in general rather than automotive specific. So this backplate was projected onto a surface, baked into that surface, and then turn it into a cloth, adjust its parameters, and then lift it up with a hook so that it's kind of like as if she's doing that. And then some product stuff. So on the left, we basically had to create ice for these. So the ground surface on the left image, and then surrounding the antler with encasing it in ice and adding icicles. Some more particle stuff where we're instancing cubes, but this time giving them like aim direction on the left image, and then messing around with some fairly high-res marble textures and subsurface scattering, so they've still got this kind of translucent softness to them. The watches there were photographic. Then birds. The legs and beak and body of this one were sculpted by Rich Jenkinson, who's now in the Berlin Recon studio. The larger feathers were placed by hand and rigged, and then the body feathers were done with Yeti. This is probably not the finest example of Mari work because it's blurred to hell, but the cars photographic, the scene is CGI and took quite a bit of time to get correct, and then was motion blurred afterwards. So this is for, I think it was GQ magazine. So Tiny Temper and the Mercedes photographic, they had a wall in the background built in studio, but it didn't stand up as well as they wanted, so we replaced the whole thing with this aged concrete. Similar setup here, but going for a clean instead. We replaced the set in the back with this kind of cushioned and rear lit pieces, and then throw in a dummy car to create the reflections so it sits correctly. Some interior, some Yaris, and this was a VRED project. So VRED is another Autodesk package, mainly used for industrial visualization, but was utilized by Recon in Germany to create these high quality advertising shots. And until recently, I think it's been fairly unbeaten on the speed and interactivity of its IPR. It's really, really good. This is how not to plan easy rendering. It's ray tracing on ray tracing on ray tracing. And then the guys in post have done a really good job on slightly offsetting the reflections to create kind of faint chromatic aberration in the reflections too. So it's the eye for detail by the retouches over there are just, it's insane. More chromatic aberration, but this time on a massive scale. So this is full CGI, everything, and also trying to add a certain level of diffuse to objects so the light decays as it passes through them. That's, yeah, big job. Lots of render time again. This was a collaboration with an architect and a photographer. This is Mark Troutman, a full CGI set. I think they're really quite successful for the time as well. Another collaboration with a photographer, this is Nick Meek, wanted to put in this mushroom cloud explosion. This was fluid effects in Moir again, but split up into certain different levels. So the explosion at the top is separate from the main kind of stem of the mushroom cloud, separate from the base, and then kind of composited together into this one massive explosion. This is an interesting site-specific advertisement. So this is for Dusseldorf Airport. So we had a guy go down there and shoot reference photography for the structure of these windows. So I built it like for like, and then using the same tech as before with the fracture effects to smash the glass and manually bend apart the metal geometry. And then it was printed out 1-to-1 size and mounted on the windows at Dusseldorf Airport to make it look like the capital was escaping. This was for photographer Clemens Ascher, and the rocket itself was textured and built using Mari. This is a bit of a flip on its head as well. All the cars and vehicles are photographic. The arena is what's CGI, which took quite a bit of time to design of an existing arena. Just picking up reference photos, judging how many spans of each piece of geometry would have to be, that sort of thing. This I probably don't have enough time to go into because this was a huge effort from a really big team, and I'd recommend going over to madlove.net, which is Recon Farmers' blog, to see the making of. So there's photogrammetry, there's speed tree trees, there's some clever twisting of the world geometry and normal basis baking, and then the car is done in VRED, and so's the road, and it's just quite a mental splice of stuff. It took 2 or 3 months for us to go through and do these. Super ambitious, but also super successful and quite rewarding at the end. It's pretty easy to say what's not CGI. The sea, the sand, the sign at the bottom left, the lighthouse, everything else CGI. So, and it was Rich Jenkinson again doing the flamingos, and I sorted out the rest of that. Hand-painted drops on bottle and all. This was quite a successful project with, we got kind of the system nailed down with VRED for doing pretty nice car product shots, and this was done with Graham Thorpe, who they had a shoot down the west coast of Italy and just picked up all of these beautiful locations, and we dropped in the latest Bentley GT Continental into that. For this one, it's a commemoration of a time when the Tate Britain got flooded. And we had a couple of people on set when they were shooting this to photo scan the whole scene, but it took too long for us to process in the end. And instead, I projected onto dummy geometry the photography to get the reflection in the water right. So the water is the only thing that's CGI in the set. And to get it right was the projection method and putting all the people cut out on cards so the reflections are correct. Created some brushes in Photoshop to apply ripples correctly, and then rendering out to get the depth using subsurface scattering and an environment volume fall off in there too. CGI background set, car done in red, Germany. How the hell do you render point cloud LiDAR data? I can tell you that with a lot of difficulty. We were working in Maya 2015 at the time, and the plugin for rendering that stuff only existed for Maya 2014, so we were jumping in between to make that happen and rendering out pass upon pass upon pass to be able to do the degradation of the point cloud in post-production. This is another one from Nick Meek, and the car's quite special to me. So the car in this is the only thing that's CGI. It's a Maserati Bora, but we'll come back to that in a minute. This was for Rick Guest, quite poppy things, but it was a version of the Calva Daylight Studio in just outside Malaga, but totally colored in with these crazy bright tones. And here's the actual Calva Light Studio. This car was photographic, and then we changed the trims, got different wheels, different bumper, different lights, all done in VRED. And yeah, pretty seamless. So this is kind of towards the end of my career at Recon. And what's strange is that this is kind of the coup de grace of everything I did. And I didn't put a finger on these images. I did not make these images at all. So before these were done, we did a version of almost identical images with a different coloration with Alessandra Kila at lower res of a prototype of this 7 series. And they were basically like for like, almost identical, but I left the company at this point, and these were taken over by another artist to therefore up-res. And they're really nice that they've kept my credit on this as the creative lead as far as CGI is concerned, because these are so similar to the images that I did originally, including interiors. So that was my life at Recon. And I'd like to break it down now into what I was doing to keep creative and keep interested in the work I was doing while I was there. So I was there for 10 years and kind of dedicated a hell of a lot of my life and my interest and kind of personal learning into developing their workflows and how they create images. And hopefully there's a little bit of the essence of me in the work that they produced over that time. But towards the end, I was flailing a bit. I had 2 children, which made it a little bit more difficult to work the original hours that I was doing, which I'm sure others can relate to. But I joined a Facebook group called Automotive CGI. I should use a Facebook group as a thing, or use Facebook as a thing for people to do, because I've just watched Social Dilemma and it's the Antichrist. But it kept me going quite well because Sergey, who runs the group, was running a challenge which basically gives a brief and a deadline every couple of weeks or so. And the first challenge I saw was to have a car in a certain color match the background of a certain color. So I picked this guy. So it was the Maserati Bora that I already did for Nick Meek on this bright red background, and I treated it as well as I possibly could. And then the guys at the studio liked it and handed it over to possibly the best retoucher on the planet, which is Pepe Alram, to clean it up and make it look presentable. And that's what the guys there do. And this is what good retouching is. So that was the first one, and I was like, okay, this is good. I can continue doing this in my spare time and impress people and also feel happy, and maybe start diverting some of my energy for creating images and also troubleshooting certain aspects of CGI through this and build portfolio stuff. So this was for a motion blur challenge, and it's kind of a strange choice for me for a motion blur challenge, but I wanted to be able to illuminate this headlight using just the filament in the bulb inside. So I built the whole thing and developed the shaders to be able to do that. Then leading off from the splashy shot you saw earlier, instead of using manually scattering drops, I used XGen to scatter drops over the surface. There's particle simulation for the foreground stuff. There is mapped volumetrics for the stuff that's in front of the headlights. There is bump maps on the surface of the car to create drops. So it's like, okay, this is going well. And I started treating it like speed drawing. So I'd give myself a really short period of time to problem solve these certain different things. Next was a studio shot. Okay, how do I make tire tracks? I'll get a cylinder and I'll put it around the tire and I'll bake the occlusion, and that'll give me a map that's tileable that I can roll across the floor, and I can use that to spawn displacement to put dirt on it. Okay, cool. And it's like, okay, that's my thought process on that. I can break down shading to the nth degree. This was a project to do just logos or insignia. Okay, what can I do with this? So I went through a whole bunch of procedurals using originally kind of the Grant Warwick mastering CGI way of doing things, and then developed it a little bit further to be able to add some extra details procedurally. This is for another car that ended up being used by Clement Sasha for another series. Okay, so how can I aim a bit higher for a larger format image that was more difficult to produce in a short period of time? Okay, I can take some of the photo scan stuff I've done previously to make these rocks. I can take rendering.ru textures for really high res road. I can simulate some smoke, and simulating smoke is the only thing I need to do to create this image, because I've got everything else. Okay, cool. I can do this within under a day. Cool, great. And then I took it even further. So this image was done within an hour. I already had this car from the previous orange one you saw. Okay, if I put a really big round edge on this, it feels like a Hot Wheels. Great, let's do that. So I did that and duplicate it. I'll build a track. You can go through here and look at all the errors and the things I've missed, but like, why are there still gold wing mirrors on the blue car? You didn't even manage to apply the right material. Okay, whatever, it's fine. So the next one, okay, so I'm now into sourcing material and objects and building libraries for being able to do larger things. This was for a dream garage. So I designed, sketched and built this thing and put in my dream car. And did a day and night version of this, and was able to like source certain things from certain different areas to be able to achieve this sort of image in a short period of time. This was just when Jeremy Cliff did his series on, which if you don't know it, you should look at it. There was a Lamborghini Miura that was found in a barn, and he took these beautiful pictures of it as soon as it was taken out but not cleaned. And that was the inspiration for this. It's like, okay, I know a guy who has an F40 model. Okay, we'll use that and drape this cloth over it and develop a new way of doing dust. Using Fresnel to drive the growth of fur over the surface. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that works. And it was kind of production ready. And everything else in the scene was sourced from either libraries. The cobbles on the floor were shot outside of Recomp's studio photo scan. This was a slightly easier one, but I wanted to do a cinematograph. If you look at the Behance on this, you'll see that I've got the ripples moving. It's not totally successful, but it was kind of what I had in mind and what I could do within the time frame. This was like changing environmentals. Start out with a photo that was totally dry and be able to make it wet. So I reprojected the whole scene and rebuilt all the geometry, projected the what's it called? Car park onto it, and then made a procedural puddle setup that got like deeper towards the edges, and it has like damp areas around each puddle where it darkened down the diffuse of that stuff, and then I put lights in where they should have been and then dropped the car, and the car's kind of an afterthought of this whole situation. I met a guy called Sebastian Zabata, who runs a company called Friendly Shade. He's doing some crazy stuff, but he was the first one I saw to do these super high resolution scanned materials. So I wanted to do an example for him to show off what he was doing. He gave me the materials for free to test. So I gave him back these images to advertise. So we did this one and this one, and a couple of different iterations of this one where it's daylight out at the end of the tunnel. But I quite like this one because it's quite sinister. Oh, this one was, I saw some pictures of a pink Lamborghini parked in, like, I think it was Times Square in the 80s. I was like, okay, that's cool, I'll do that. So I picked up this Tower Grid model of this Countach and rebuilt the whole of the back end so that the lights worked properly and all the emblems and stuff worked correctly, and gave it this gold pearl pink paint job, because my daughter asked me for a pink car picture, so I gave her a pink car picture. Oh, this particular version is the 25th anniversary, and I hated the skirting on it and the rear bumper, so I just cropped it out. And I liked the way it looked cropped, so that was the end of that. I've had a lot of people say, why did you crop it? Oh, that's because I wanted to. Thinking back to my days with Mental Ray, trying to create volumetric caustics, and how much I hit my head against the desk trying to do photon shaders, and it had to pass through like 60 surfaces in order to be shaded right before you could even cut. And then I turned it on this car, and I was like, oh, it just does it. V-Ray just does it. Okay, cool. The ground again in this one is also a Friendly Shade material. So I got to here, and I started seeing the briefs coming into Recom with a few of these images I've just shown you in their briefs from AD. So it turned out that these were working for both Recom and myself to promote our skills and our uses. So this is like a physical studio setup. So I did this as physically as I possibly could. This was recreating a brochure of an NSX. This was pure recycling. Everything in here is almost the same as that Pikes Peak Porsche shot, but where the rocks, just adjusting the way the rocks kind of merge into the ground, merge into the gravel, merge into the rocks the other side and the trees, and then it's exactly the same smoke simulation that I used on the Porsche, just from a different angle. I've been slated a little bit for putting this massive flare in on the left, but I love it. I can talk to you a little bit about how I created these headlights from progressive photon caching. caustics, but you'd probably get a bit bored. But in the first place, I think it's quite funny that I did it using the CAD from the headlight of a Nissan Micra, and then I put it into a 6 Series BMW. Some Kino lit car porn. This is just V-Ray Next was well out by this point, but I hadn't used the upgrade to the tune shaders to be able to do this kind of halftone based stuff. Again, this is a solid version of that same smoke simulation. So this sort of stuff is the whole point, is that it doesn't take very much time to complete. So this is coming to the end of my time at Recom as well. This was developed specifically to break down how to make the post process of rendering images easier. So this came out with a whole bunch of AOVs for different levels of dirt, which could then be painted in post to make the image as dirty or as clean as you needed it to be. It's also a very physical light setup, studio light setup with a floating ceiling. And this is kind of the ultimate of what I did during those challenges, and brought me to where I want to be as far as what makes me feel good about image making. So despite all the beautiful images that I've done for Recom and for other advertising companies in the past, having cameras rigged to cars and having them drive down a freeway or in a remote location is not how people perceive cars. They perceive them at the roadside or from the passenger seat. So for this, I animated the car lifting off. I've been slated a little bit for having turned wheels, but it looks good with turned wheels. I know if it hit the ground, it would flip off into the central reservation, but that's neither here nor there. So I've got the camera static, but the aim point not totally pinned on the front corner of the car, because this is just how you'd be shooting it if you were trying to capture this. There's a whole bunch of errors in this image, but nobody seems to care. So, you know, it ends up being the image is powerful enough to not worry about the details. So it sells this feeling, it sells noise, scent. You know, the whole thing is a kind of synesthesia experience, and I've had a lot of really good feedback on that.
Kristian, it's an incredible image. So what do you think because I would be chuffed with myself for a very long time if I made this. So what are the errors that you're talking about? So I can break down a little bit how it's made with a really, really dodgy HDR, and you get the sort of flare you should be getting in your camera is the same as you would as I guess a lot of you have been using the kind of glare effects in whatever renderer it is you're using at this point. Chrona's got a really good one, V-Ray's got a pretty good one. But when you're using an HDR, the flares already happened within the camera that you shot the HDR with. So you can see these flares happening in the side, reflected in the car. You get this kind of spider feel where it just drapes itself across the reflective surface. There's a lot about the car that I didn't model correctly. I've just hacked that the wheels at the front have dropped down because of the suspension. I've hacked that there are people in the back. I've hacked that tree over there. There's a little bit of retouch replacement, the sky in the background, even though you can hardly see it. There's all these bits that I think about, and also it's noisy as hell. It was like...
You talk about obnoxious lens flares, Kristian. I imagine that's the big booker at the top there, is it?
Oh no, I love that one. I'm talking about the stuff reflected in the side of the car. I placed that one at the top.
I thought Simon was asking something a little bit different there, because one of the things I really love about this image is that it has a real sort of sense of realism about it, because it feels a little bit out of focus. It feels a little bit like somebody's grabbed a photograph of it, and you know, it's got a real kind of dynamism about it, which just gives a, you know, the fact that it isn't perfect in 3D and fantastic is, you know, gives it a little bit more realism in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. I can smell it. It's visceral.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's a fantastic image.
You seem concerned about the fact that the wheels are slightly turned, so the car might crash. You know. So,
I'm just saying that this is the sort of stuff I've been fed back already.
Yeah, but that's. Yeah.
I think it looks really cinematic, and this is what I like about it. It's not as it's not as clean as all the product shots and stuff we see usually, and this one's kind of out of a film almost. It's really good. And I really like the noise, to be honest. I really like grainy images anyway.
Yeah,
I added more grain
it's
to
one
cover
of
up
the
the
best
noise.
images. Sorry, Kristian. It's really good because it gives you a feeling. You know, it's like a really strong feeling that you get from this image. You can smell it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's all I was going for. Because picking these sort of views and putting you in the actual position of a spectator makes a big difference to how I think you read images. And I want to try and do that as much as possible for the future. So it was getting towards the end of 2018 where things were getting a little stale, and I got offered a few freelance positions, and with permission I took some unpaid leave and took from Recom and did some other work, and in the meantime for tax efficiency purposes started a company with my partner Rika, and it got a little uncomfortable, so we ended up parting ways with Recom on really good terms. I'm still super friendly with all the guys there, and they do amazing stuff, but it was time for us to move on to do something else. So we started a company called Wooden Gun, and the plan was to build a portfolio quite quickly of images that we want to make. So trying to kind of advertise via, you're only going to get work that you want to do by people liking work that you do. So we started creating these images. I mean, these are kind of this balance between beautiful stills, but also conceptual and wanting to pick kind of angles and feelings that you don't usually get in traditional advertising. So we created this platform very similar to the Calvert platform. The mountains and stuff in the back are made by Quad Spinner's Gaia software, which is really quite cool because you can paint erosion and stuff off the back of the World Machine stuff. And Rika's gone to town on retouching these and adding in like lots of little flies flying towards the words escape me, sorry. The fluorescent tubes hanging from the sky. And again, for the same ring designer that we did the previous Recom stuff, we got in touch, and she had some new designs that wanted to be shown. So we took our texturing and stuff to a new level based on these, and wanting to create stuff that was more within our style. And then we got in touch with photographer Tilo Sikanoda, and he offered this set of backplates that he shot at Lower Grand in LA, which is a place that I've done a few times before at Recom, because it's a very, very famous place where you can close the road and shoot whatever you want, basically. But these images just seemed quite interesting and graphical. We dropped in this bright yellow Lamborghini. So what made this also interesting is we rebuilt the whole of the Lower Grand and projected on all of these surfaces the different textures that he'd photographed. So it meant that if you couldn't see all the reflections and stuff work like pin sharp accurately between the car and the floor, for example, in this one. Obviously there's a bit of a creative license to move wet lines and stuff down windows or across the surface to make them look better. But it also meant that we could do what I wanted to do, which are these tracking shots, which make you, so because we've got this whole set that's already projected with the correct textures, we can then act like cameramen, like photographers, and stick a camera here, have the car drive through, have the camera attempt to follow it, and it just gives you this different feel beyond what you usually get with advertising shots. It becomes more like magazine worthy. And then this is the run up, this is to the end of 2019. We created this series because I thought it would be quite funny to do this Christmas series where you've got this car abandoned. It kind of brings this solace of what Christmas feels like for a lot of people, where it's quite anticlimactic and a bit cold and distant. And we called it Isolation. We did not know that we would be in isolation 3 months later. So this has a specific poignancy to it. And these are also like basically a beauty render with a color grade over the top. Everything's in render. I did this huge particle simulation for these motion blurred snowflakes, and we've got serious depth fog, and then took this BMW that a friend of mine had built, and I got it from him like over a year earlier, but I thought this was the right time to be using it, and baking on different normals to be able to get snow to settle on it nicely and that sort of thing. So one of our more recent ones. So this was Vitaly Enes, who is a fantastic photographer and also fantastic CG artist, went to France and shot all of this stuff. He didn't shoot any HDRIs, so this took a lot of reprojection and hacking of HDRIs to make this car fit. So this was in Paris, and this car is the Ferrari Roma. So this is the Rome in Paris. It's nice to do long exposure stuff. This I've animated the car, so it's got a little bit of a bump coming down the end, so that the lines go a little bit kind of Akira-esque motorbike scenes, and a little anamorphic lens distortion stuff going on. So that was really quite cool. So that's where we're up to at the moment with Wood and Gun stuff. We've got a couple more series of things that are going to be coming up very soon. But on the personal front, you were just talking previously about what you've been doing during lockdown and what people have been kind of collaborating on different things and how to build stuff. So I had Dmitry Glatzerin get in touch with me from Monolith Studios, and they do crazy cool stuff there. And he wanted to, I've known him from quite a while before that. He wanted to do a calendar, a racing car calendar, and to get in all the best automotive CGI artists that he knows to basically do personal work for each of the 12 months. And each of the 12 months would be split up into decades. So everyone in the first place had like a bit of a raffle to who they pick out. So I was quite lucky, and I got the 80s, which is a generation of racing that I really quite like. But the other artists involved in this are like Carlos Pacino, who's Color Sponge. If you don't know his work already, you should. Bernd Montag, who's also incredible. Ona Durson, Toby Lee, David Schaefer, who's also there's just a bunch of the best talent that there is in this particular game doing these, and they gave me permission to show a sneak peek of the image that I'm entering. I've made a black and white version and darker version so that I'm allowed to show it before the final thing. But this is what we're on at the moment, and that is my latest image. And I'd like to say thank you to all of you for listening to me for way too much time.
Thank you so much, Kristian.
That is amazing work, Kristian.
Absolutely amazing.
Wow. That last one, was that a BMW 1?
It's a M1 Pro car.
Oh, such a cool car.
I was cheating a little bit because it was made in the 70s, but the final season was 1980, so I took it.
So good.
Very nice. It's very, very cool.
Any questions? Sorry, that went on for way longer than my previously recorded version.
Well, I'm glad because I saw so many stuff that I haven't seen anywhere, so they were really good question.
Thank you.
And it's really cool how you do different styles as well. I really like the one with the that looks cartoony, like the toon shader that you used. Super cool. And then you have some really clean ones, and then you have some really dusty, noisy ones. It's really cool how you're not afraid to go to experiment with like different styles and like different type of images that you do. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna just do clean cars and just do cinematic. You just do everything, and that's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone have questions? I'll look at the.
I do. That was just, I'm speechless. Beautiful, beautiful work.
Amazing.
Tell us about the future of automobile CGI.
Right.
And where do you think it's going in terms of everyone else is talking about real time? How does that affect what you're doing?
Yeah. So I'd like to tell you a lot more about what I'm doing at the moment, because obviously lockdowns kicked in, and my plan was to like meet lots of art buyers and build in and bring in new large scale projects and that sort of thing. But it's just been so busy working as like a hired gun for all the other production houses, and it's been smooth, and it's been rewarding to see what other people do and how people do things differently. It's really, really interesting. I think we had a little discussion yesterday about this, Nigel, but I don't think real time is going to go away. It's not something we should all be afraid of. We should be kind of embracing it. And I think whether you are Unity or Unreal, that your whole thing has to go in a direction. Offline rendering is not going to be a thing forever. It's too expensive, too time consuming. But what we were talking about yesterday was iterations and delivering closer to deadlines, and there always being client tweaks. This is something that I find quite difficult to deal with on a daily basis, but it is the way things are, and it is what people are going to be pushing for. But there should be a level of trust between the people commissioning the work and the workers doing it. So I like to believe that relationships can be built between clients and suppliers that are, in a way, you do your part of this job, and then you make images or you make films, and there be enough time in between to allow for good work to be done. Because if you're just struggling to deliver, you're never going to create anything that's really important or really satisfying for either you or the client. Or are they just going to be happy for their shareholder to then tick a box? Or I'm a bit afraid of a world like that, where nobody gets enough time to spend within the like creative processes of things to be able to do stuff properly, or develop ideas properly, or develop looks properly, or but obviously the tech's getting better.
I mean, I can't see it, Kristian, I can't see that happening, because you're always going to need clever people to sell you stuff. You know, I mean, most people that who are involved in CGI, I mean, they're either creating movies which they need to sell, or they're involved in advertising, whether it be buildings or cars or something. You're always going to need clever people to sell other people's stuff. So I don't know if I'm fully on board with that point of view. I would say it's up to us to be a bit more positive about this kind of thing. And these guys are going to kill me if I mention that NVIDIA thing again. But
don't bring
it really
no, I'm all for a smooth pipeline. I think that's really important. But what the smooth pipeline should allow for is more time to create good work.
Yeah.
Is less time in the technical and more time in the building and in the design.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Whether that's actually going to happen, that's what I'm a little pessimistic about.
Well, I don't think you should be pessimistic, because I think, I mean, if you take away the actual the technical ability to do it, it still remains that you still want to do it. You know, you still want to do it because you enjoy doing it. And as much as we can't believe that other people don't want to do what we do, that happens. You know, not everyone is interested in what we do. So the fact that, you know, people like us and everyone that's watching is us talk about this stuff. The fact that we all want to do it and we're all interested in it, it counts for an enormous amount, I think. So I don't know. I think you should be slightly more optimistic about it. And certainly you in particular, you're clearly very skilled. I really, you know, I wouldn't worry about it for a second, Kristian.
Kristian, I have another question.
Yep.
This is more for, if I was what would you say to students who wanted to get into doing what you do? Well, is there sort of any tips on how to get into?
See, I learned on the don't bother. Leave it to me.
No. The issue is that I was extremely fortunate, and I was able to join a very small company and learn on the job, and I was given the opportunity to do that. And not everybody's going to be able to do that. And there's not a tutorial course that's going to teach you exactly how to do this stuff. You're going to have to spend some time Googling stuff until someone comes out with something that's like ace tutorial wise. And the tech's changing so quick that you can't quite keep up. Once you know what you're doing, you're already kind of behind. So what I could suggest to students who are actually studying this stuff, or
any student who's maybe watching thinking, I want to do what Kristian's doing.
If you like doing it, just do it. Just do it in your spare time. That's what I was doing. I enjoyed making these pictures on this Facebook group, and that kind of built me up to doing more stuff and kind of reignited the fire in me to do this work. It's easy enough to get a trial license of something and try it out. And again, I'm not going to get into an argument about what software you should get.
Whatever works.
You can do this stuff in Blender really well, and I've seen many artists do really, really well with it. So cut yourself some slack. Otherwise, grab a camera, go out and shoot stuff, think about composition.
So I have a little something to add there, Kristian. I feel awkward because I'm talking with you and Nigel. You both have incredible hair. Nigel's hair tonight is amazing. I don't know what he's done to it, but it's ridiculous. Also, on top of the technical ability that you guys are talking about, I mean, there's something really important to be said to succeed in the business, Kristian. If you were to further your advice to students and people that wanted to become involved in this industry, putting aside technical ability and artistic ability, I mean, what else do you think that you need?
Are you talking about drive? Is that where this is going? You get opportunities sometimes, and you shouldn't waste them. I've been given or handed very, very good opportunities that may not have seemed so much to me at the time, and if I had wasted them, I would be in a very different place. So I would like to tell people, if they see a chance and they've got, you know, very little to lose, even if they have a little something, if they have a Friday night to lose, who cares? Just work towards it. I've got a list of different advices I would give as an experienced CGI generalist, which I'll share. It's like 30 things that I find are important to being able to produce images the way I do. And I'll share those over with Ioanna or something, and we can put them on the bottom of the site. That are basically my life lessons to myself. Not that I can follow all of them. There are things like keeping a glass of water on your desk because you don't realize that your body's fueled by coffee for 16 hours straight. It's just like simple basic stuff, and building a library, and anything that you do, don't throw it away, keep it there to use it again. There's just a bit of a spiel of little things that can help you along. But yeah, as a student,
have you ever met someone who's like way more talented than you, but they're an awful person to get along with? I think that's what I'm...
the way more talented people that I know are too nice and really, really difficult to hate.
Kristian, I got one final question, and it's more to do with. I know
Sorry,
that
Nigel. I got a butt in there, but I'm not talented and I'm not nice. So Kristian's really let me down there.
we know that.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Can you give us a quick overview of the product visualization industry that you have worked in for so many years, and that includes, because I know probably a lot of people watching come from Archviz, and they know a lot of companies in Archviz, but the CarViz company, CarViz industry is equally as big.
It's enormous. It's really enormous. There's some really good companies, and a lot of the smaller companies are really good. So companies that are like between 2 and 5 people, like Additive Studios is really good. They're kind of flawless in their technical quality. And if you're going the bigger end of the deal, there's the Saddington Baines, there's the Taylor James, there companies that are international. Recom's one of them, who are just kind of flawless work all the time. I just find it nicer to work in smaller companies. I don't know whether any of you are of the same mind, but that's just because I like wearing a lot of hats. I like being in, or maybe it's a control freak thing, knowing that I can do this from start to finish and deliver something that people are going to buy. You know, it's whereas if I kind of compartmentalized into one specific area, I get a bit twitchy and bored. And I'm sure there are other people around here who do the same thing. But I like to have my hand in a lot of pies when it comes to that sort of thing. And I have a certain level of vision of what I want to achieve. And I'm quite happy to argue with clients to get that through even a little bit. Obviously, you've got to know when to go. No, okay, yeah, I'll do that. But being able to say what you feel will hopefully get me respected a little way for creative vision.
We've got a question.
Nigel and I just jumped in there with the same question on the YouTube comment.
Can I just jump quickly and say that I'll give you 5 minutes, guys, for questions, because we have another speaker, and I'll be the bad
let's
host
just
here.
answer that Alex Dave's question, Simon.
Hi, Kristian. When you receive engineering data for a whole car, what's your process in getting the data into your chosen rendering package?
I have been using VRED because it handles and tessellates data super well and is almost like a one-click solution. It's very expensive, admittedly, but it does it too well.
Not your problem, though, is it?
Huh?
That's not your problem, though, really, is it?
No, my company pays for it.
Yeah. I think on that note, that wraps it up nicely. You're obviously doing very well.
Nigel, wrap me up.
Round of applause for Kristian.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, 3DS, for a Maya user to come on here and talk for an hour or so about car visualization.
It was amazing, Kristian. It was super well received. Thank you very much. And we hope to have you on again sometime soon. Brilliant.
Yes.
Would love
Maybe
it.
in person when we can do that. Yes, thank you. I suggest we move to our next speaker, Simon. Hi, and cheers. You're about to get a sip. So cheers.
Hello and good evening.
Hi, so I'll just give for people a quick introduction. So Simon is a freelance CGI artist who is with us tonight, and I am really, really glad. I stalked your Instagram and I saw really cool work, so I can't wait to see and hear more. Thank you again for joining us.
Sorry, Ioanna, but I think we also need to point out that Simon has been coming to the physical 3DS London meetups for many years. So he's a familiar face, and we're very happy to see him online too.
That is true. Like, I'm really happy that you remember that, because yeah, I started going to 3DS in like 2013 or 2014, something ridiculous like that. I mean, it's ridiculous for me. I know that you've been running it for quite some time, but yeah. I mean, it is still the best thing you can do on, well, any other Wednesday, but yeah.
Nice.
Well, yeah. You can show us your beautiful work now, and thank you for joining us. The stage is yours, the virtual one.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, hello, good evening, and welcome everybody. It is really lovely to see everyone over here. Quite an amazing turnout as well. For me, it's I'm not a really good person with speaking publicly, so fingers crossed this comes out well. And to those of you that are present here and that do not know me, let me just share my screen and make it a little bit simpler for everyone. Okay. I do hope that you can see my fugly mug. Is this working? Can you see my black and white photo and all the logos and stuff like that?
Yes, everything's good.
Perfect. Amazing. That's great. Okay, in that case, yeah. My name is Simon Migaj. That's the correct pronunciation of my last name. I am a freelance 3D artist, photographer, and art director based out of London. Luckily enough, I have the opportunity of working worldwide for various companies and on a number of different projects. I'm capable of creating images like this and stuff like this, you know, the high quality. Sorry, I am kidding. Please do not close the window. These are actually my images, but these are images that I have been creating at the very beginning of my career in, I think, 2005 and 2006, something like that. When I was still living back in Poland, where I'm from, working on a old Dell laptop with a Pentium 166 megahertz processor and 128 megabytes of RAM. Yeah, good times. Nowadays, though, I am very lucky and very grateful to be able to say that most of the time I get to work for some really cool companies and on projects like this, which is a project for a developer in London called Redrow. It's like a photography comp thing. So the trees on the sides, that's one photo. The grass in the background, that's another photo, and the grass in the foreground, that's another photo as well. Then the building is, of course, a 3D model comp into all of that. You get things like this, which I did for recent spaces, which I freelance for quite often. I have to be honest, I'm actually freelancing for them at the moment as well. This is for, I believe, their Rose Hill project in New York. I was just the model was given to me. I was responsible for the camera angles and lightings and compositions and post-productions and all that stuff that, well, all the Archviz artists like to do, and stuff like this, which was a project for Spaces as well. for one of their clients, which basically gave me the opportunity of creating a space from the ground up. So this is me creating something from start to finish, which is always a lot of fun. Stuff for images for the boundary, like this one, this was actually done when I was working full time over there. Just, you know, creating the lighting for the scenes, taking care of the backplace and matching it to the foreground and filling up the building, etc. Because the building models themselves came from the architect who was working on the building, which was, you know, KPF and Vinoli and stuff like that. This is an image I had the pleasure of working on for Cityscape Digital. And it's a project called Wood Wharf for Canary Wharf Group over here in London. Really, really nice development, huge one. So it's like Herzog and the Newman architects, etc. Just really, really nice development. Stuff like this, which is just actually I worked on this quite some time ago for a developer back home, back in Poland, and things like this that I had the opportunity to work on just a few months ago for Assembly Studios, and a really nice developer called, well, that's Knightsbridge Estate, right in the center of London. So over here you can see Hyde Park and Knightsbridge Lane and stuff like that. Just, yeah, really cool stuff. I also do architectural photography, mainly interiors, which I kind of like doing. I basically come from a architectural background. I studied architecture in uni, and then I switched to interior design, and after that I switched to architectural visualization. So interiors are still really, really close to my heart. But I have to honestly say that over the course of the last 7 years since I moved to London, I was lucky enough to work with and gather knowledge from some amazing people. So, you know, you have your boundary guys, you have your recent spaces guys, you have your grain guys. At the time when I was working there, it was called Modelworks Media. And it kind of resulted in me being where I am today and being able to present a portfolio like this one whenever I'm approaching a new Archviz company that I think I'd be a good fit to freelance for. Although, yes, I am a freelancer, and most of the time I freelance for various CGI companies. I do still have my own workflow, which I'm trying to bring into whichever company I'm freelancing for. For example, I am a huge, massive supporter and user, because I do come from a photography background, of Camera Raw, which I don't know if many of you have used before. It's just this awesome extension to Photoshop, which just allows you to easily control basically every aspect of your CGI. Just your standard, you know, standard exposures and highlights and shadows and stuff like that. But it also allows you to fine tune your all of your colors and all of your luminosity to every aspect of your image. You can actually also control your colors of your highlights and shadows, and well, at the end of the day, you can also go for the classic Instagram look, teal and orange, but please do not overuse that one. Other than that, my workflow usually fits into most studios' workflows, at least in London and New York and that kind of area. So it's your standards, setting up a model and setting up your backplate and whatever you can do, then going for your compositions in your first draft and second drafts, and obviously going for your final images at the very end, which, like everywhere else and then every other CG company, always works out smoothly and perfectly and never, ever creates any issues, ever. Yeah. But as most of you know, this is kind of your standard workflow that probably most of you heard 100 times before. Instead, I thought I'd touch on a different subject, quite a popular one these days, because the situation around the world is as it is. And as Simon mentioned before, yes, I do also believe that the Archviz industry is progressing in an incredible way. And I kind of think that it's because our CG artists have the time to actually develop the skills, develop the stuff that they are working on. And I honestly, I love it. But at the same time, I do also understand the fact that all of us are still willing and I still want to make money. So I thought that I would touch on something that I do, which is freelancing for Archviz companies. So this is something that I have been doing for quite some time, I think 4 or 5 years right now. This is also something that I have not heard about before I moved to London. Back where I come from, which is Poland, it wasn't that popular and that well known. I only found out that this is something that you can do when I moved here. But yes, this is something that you can do, and if you're a good CG artist, then I do believe that this is a good option to make money. So it's something that I am doing, and I probably will be doing for, well, a possible amount of time. What are the upside of this? Well, the upsides are there's definitely less hassle. You're not responsible to do the pitch. You're not responsible to do all the contracts. You're not responsible to do all the massive amounts of paperwork, all the accounting. Plus, for me, at least, most of the time, I am actually freelancing in an office. So all of the time, I will be the company that I will be freelancing for will be providing me with the hardware and software, which is quite a good option when you think about it that way, because you don't really have to pay for any of the software. Plus, if there are any IT issues, most of the time they will solve them for you. Although I do acknowledge the fact that I am quite old school and I can solve most of the IT issues myself. It is very useful. I'm never complaining about it. Plus, the thing that's the big one for me, especially when you're freelancing, the ability to freelance in an office means that you are changing companies quite often. You are meeting so many different artists. You are gathering such a huge amount of knowledge, and you are sharing a huge amount of knowledge. It's absolutely priceless, and it is the biggest upside that you can ever find in any kind of artist-related industry. Unfortunately, of course, there are, well, I want to say some downsides, but there are some significant downsides. being a freelancer, again, especially nowadays, can be quite stressful, and I do understand that. It's kind of, first of all, if you want to be a freelancer, I don't know, I do think that it's good to have some kind of a experience from some kind of a permanent position. Second of all, you kind of have to think about, you constantly have to think about the next job ahead, which, I don't know, might happen. You might have to look for, I don't know, in a month's time, in a week's time, or 2 weeks' time. So it can be a little bit stressful. And the second thing is you never really own your images. And I am quite lucky about the fact that the companies that I've freelanced for or worked for allowed me to show the images that I'm showing to you right now. But it's kind of on a daily basis. If you're freelancing for a company, you don't even have that kind of pride of being a part of a family. So for an artist, as we are vain creatures, it can be difficult. So you also, I would suggest to take that into consideration as well. That being said, I do understand that especially nowadays, many people are looking for some opportunities, and many companies don't want to take on full-time staff because, well, times are as they are. So a lot of companies are taking on artists on a per project basis. If that is the situation that you find yourself in, then, well, maybe you will find the next bit useful. My standard approach when I am trying to freelance for a new company is to send out a short email. I am honestly saying short, keeping it, sweet and simple, asking if I can be of service and attaching hopefully a good portfolio. For me, it's usually something like this. So this is what I usually present. It's just a short summary of what I do, all the services that I offer, my contact details, and just an image to sweeten the experience. Then I show all the images that I've done for previous companies, obviously mentioning the client in the footer, because, well, it's a good reference if you have a previous one. And this is just a bunch of images plus some photography as well, because, well, this is something that I'm interested in, and I think it's beneficial, and it just kind of shows the client that I know, my colors, and I know my compositions, and I don't know, it is just good practice that I like to do. Now, once that happens, well, let's be realistic. More often than not, you probably won't even get an answer because, well, companies don't want to do that because a lot of the times they won't care. But that shouldn't discourage you. A lot of the companies' emails you will be sending to, and if you'll send a good email, if the message will be positive, if it has a strong portfolio attached, you might land in like a library of artists that a company might want to use at some point in the future. And every now and then, they will reply, or they will send you an email in, I don't know, a few months' time or something like that. Now, that's amazing, and that's what you should be striving for. And at that point, when you get your proverbial foot through the door. What's next? Well, because most of the time, as I've mentioned, I'm freelancing in an office because, as I mentioned, it's a great way to meet new people and gain out of knowledge. But I have to also acknowledge the fact that it's quite demanding, as you have to fit into a team that you'll be working with for a short period of time. And the second thing is that you also have to do all your paperwork, all your accounting. Now, full caveat, I do not know how this works for other countries. So if anyone here is from outside of UK, and this might not be applicable to your country per se, so please do research this a little bit more. But in UK, to be a freelancer, you need to either set yourself up as a sole trader, which is kind of like a one-person business dealing with taxes once a year, and you can go for a limited company. As I'm usually working for other LTD Archviz studios, I'm a sole trader, as it has the benefit of being a simpler and less time-consuming option due to the accounting needs of an LTD. And that kind of neatly brings us to the final stage of the process. When you do a good job, you'll have to, like any other company, send an invoice to your client, the Archviz studio that you are working for. There are many ways you can do that. You can even use your standard, Excel spreadsheet. Though I have to honestly admit that after recent statistical errors in UK, I wouldn't recommend that particular option. But it's best to either use an accountant, or if you're a Scrooge, like, let's be honest, like I am, you can use an online accounting app. Me personally, I tend to use something called Free Agent, which is a lot of blurred text, which I am sorry for. Let me just have a look if I have something open in here. No, unfortunately I don't. But okay, yeah, I do. So Free Agent is just your standard online software that allows you to, easily control your money, control your income, control your expenses. It actually also gives you the option to create invoices, and it has templates for that. It's definitely something I would recommend to people that are just starting out being a freelancer, sole trader, or a one-person LTD. I think that's because that's kind of, at this point, you're basically just cashing the money and chill and go shopping. I think that's it. I do, of course, understand the fact that I have made this insanely simple. If you have any questions whatsoever regarding all of this workflow, I'd be really happy to answer them. So please fire away, and thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. Yeah, round of applause, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Your mic held out. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Really good.
It made it more exciting thinking that you were presenting from the bottom of the ocean. That was very cool, Simon.
What a big line is done there.
I should add my wife to the pipeline, because she's very good at cashing in and go shopping.
Yeah.
As are you, I'm sure.
For everyone.
I've seen that new motorbike of yours. Simon, what sort of work do you prefer doing in between interiors, exteriors? Do you have a favorite?
No, honestly, I really don't. I just like creating beautiful images, whichever works.
Okay, that's a short answer.
Yeah, very fair.
Very diplomatic. So, Si, how much of your, how much pimping do you have to do? I mean, how much repeat work do you get from studios? I mean, my guess is that once you've worked for someone, they kind of want you to work for them again. But how much kind of self-publicity do you have to do?
You are 100% accurate. Basically, I didn't have, I know that I will sound very arrogant, but I didn't have to do any publicity over the last, I think, 3 years. Basically, I have like a bunch of 3D studios that I have been working with for a very long period of time. And I kind of usually, well, most of the time I do jump between those studios. So I don't really do that much publicity anymore. Plus, I do have to acknowledge the fact that Instagram is massive these days. So very often, especially when it comes down to my architectural photography side of business, I do find work that way as well.
Right.
Simon, I've got a question for you, and it probably relates to, well, it does relate to our 3DS London. Since you've been going for many, many years, how important was networking at 3DS London to your connections?
Very.
Good question.
I don't know if I should even answer this, because
you have to answer it.
You should 100% answer this question, Simon, and there's no pressure at all.
My issue with the answer to that question is that if you're not living in London, then this might be quite hurtful to that person. Because I think that at this point, I don't know, like 70 or 80% of my livelihoods came from connections that I made at 3DS London like 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, it's massive.
And so how important do you think it's been that you have lived in London and met these people? I mean, do you think you could have done this remotely from a different country? And how, and to qualify that question, because it sounds a little bit mean, I guess, but do you think the way things are going now, do you think you could do that from a different country quite so easily?
Before Simon answers that, let me just expand it to, we've got D2 with us tonight, and that I think that you can say the same thing about D2 or Nikos, what he was doing with 3D New York as well. So there are physical, or there were. Remember in the old days when there were physical meetups that people went along to and met and networked.
I used to hug people.
Months ago, Nigel. It was 7 months ago.
Over the last.
It's not dead yet.
Anyway, but the same would apply to exactly what Fabio's doing, or has been doing for 10 years, and of course other conferences around the world. That's the new norm of where you network and find job opportunities.
I have to honestly say that I am kind of with Nigel on that one. This will sound a little bit unhumble, but when I was moving to London, I already had quite a good portfolio, and some of the London-based companies were already approaching me to, well, be full-time with them. But I do have to acknowledge the fact that I don't know, for the last 4 or 5 years, 3DS London has been a massive, massive influence on my livelihood, and I do appreciate it greatly. And I can't really diminish the fact that
we'll be sending you the bill.
Yeah. No, so Simon,
the amount of money that I spent on beer over there, I think it already covers it.
Yeah, you're even. So no, we're not necessarily digging for compliments here, but I was just genuinely interested to know if you think you could do what you did from basically not living in London. I mean, I wondered. It's so interesting the way the world has changed over the past 5 years in terms of remote working, and then concentrated over the past 5 months, most certainly. But I wondered if you think, I mean, what happens when there's a problem with a job? I mean, do you talk about it over the phone? Do you go to the offices? I mean, jobs don't always go smoothly. Every now and then there's a problem, and it needs. I was trying to touch on this earlier when I was talking to Kristian, and I asked Kristian, you know, what are the skills that you need outside of being shit hot at CG? I mean, what are the skills that if you were to, if you could advise younger people who are getting started and who are lucky enough to see this, what would you tell them the big skills are to have apart from being shit hot at the CG?
I see what you mean. It's actually quite funny because I had this conversation with someone last week. Basically, the first part of the question is if I could just do this being somewhere outside of London. And I don't know what it is, but somehow the CG artists managed to, I don't know, get together in London better than anywhere else. So I actually suggested it to someone in, oh God, I don't even remember. I think it was Germany or something like that, that if he is looking to build the industry over there, they should start a meetup. Literally, they should start something that forces artists like ourselves to meet up together, exchange knowledge, exchange contacts, and just, I don't know, do something for themselves. So I think that that's the thing. London basically, well, let's give credit where credit is due. You basically, Simon, created this whole community over here, which is so unique.
Look
to
at
London.
what's happened to them.
And, well, but look, with everything that's happening literally right this second over here is thanks to Simon. And it's a very unique thing. That's something that wasn't happening 10 years ago. And, you know, that was already happening in London. So I'm basically, to answer your question, I'm getting a feeling that, yes, it would be possible to do it somewhere outside of London if CG artists in the other countries would be able to, you know, create and form a collective like they did in London.
Let me bring Fabio in on replying to this. And because Fabio has been doing and building the world's largest Archviz community, and especially the largest conference, and from what I can see, there are so many companies have actually formed because they've gone there, they've met people, they've networked, they've thought, you're nice, let's actually do something together. And it has become, well, it has been where the industry meet every August. Fabio.
Yes, sir. Is there a question for me?
Just answer anything.
Well,
networking.
I don't know. I think, you know, this is something that when I work with my own clients, I've told you this many times, they come to me asking for the secret recipe, you know, what you need to do to make an image that sells and that can help you positioning yourself higher in the food chain of the Archviz industry. And very often they get surprised about the fact that the quality of the image, that it's not as important as artists might think. Now, I'm not saying that images should not be good, but being in this industry and working and being successful requires you to you know, being able to wear many hats. And the reason why many artists fail sometimes at running their own business or starting their own thing is that they put their focus 100% on whatever it is that they think it's quality, whatever it is that they think it's you know, making beautiful work, and discarding completely, you know, the management and client management and networking part. You know, sometimes you might be doing a work for somebody thinking that you're doing something great. You focus 100% on that client. You forget to continue doing client acquisition on the other side. That client disappears because maybe they were not happy with your work. And all of a sudden you thought that you were doing a great job, but you weren't. And now you are without that client, without new clients, and you're starting basically from zero. I know that I'm not solving the problem of the entire community by saying this, but you know, D2 was the place where people were getting to get the information that they were not getting from, say, tutorials or courses that you could find online. And I think we were very successful at making also people understand that there is more to it than just making images. I hope that that contributes to this.
Yeah, I guess so. Alex Day has another question.
I would. Sorry. Just kind of basically to also just do a comparison between D2 and 3DS.
Well, don't do that.
Oh no! Sorry, no. The only literal comparison
is this going to take 24 hours? Are we going to start a fight?
Oh no, D2 just happens, you know, once a year, and it's kind of, you know what you're getting yourself into. It's an investment. It happens over 2 days. 3DS is something that happens every month. You get different people. You get, you know, Jason coming in from Canada. Fabio was here, I think, at the end of 2019, and it's, you know, there's a slight difference.
Well, I think to summarize that, ours is a monthly gathering of like-minded people who like to get together and have a drink, and it didn't center around the talks. It centered around the courtyard, whereas you go to a conference and you go there for the talks. So,
yeah,
Simon, would that be a summary of 15 years of what you've been doing?
I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know, Nigel. I just can't stop looking at your hair. I want to know what product you're using. I want to know your barber. I want to know everything. It looks amazing. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea. But behind 3DS London was, I mean, when it started 15 years ago, the internet did exist, and I think the big point of, or the big draw for people that did our job then was CG Architect forums there, and then there were the Chaos Group forums, and then there are other ones. And those guys have kind of, I mean, they're a little bit, I don't want to offend anyone, but they're a little bit dead now. Everything's sort of flipped over onto Instagram, and I think the quality of feedback on images and the ability to question other people for their knowledge and share, I think it's degraded somehow. I think the forums were great. And I think 3D, you know, actually meeting people and chatting to people has always has always been amazing, and I don't think it's ever going to go away. I think in a couple of months' time, I mean, goodness me, I don't know, but I mean, I'm hoping 3DS London will come back really, really strongly, because everyone's missing chatting to other people about computer stuff. But yeah, I think your answer is, for the past 15 years, 3DS London has I think it's been really, really good for everybody. You know, just to even.
Can I just say something? Say one more thing.
What's your hat going to tell us? Go on.
Yeah.
Actually, hat off to you guys, because we've been doing this for, I don't know, I think that the D2 now it's going for the 7th, 8th year. Anyway, and it was a lot of work to put it together and to make it happen. You guys do this, you know, during normal times, once a month. You still get the time to sit together and discuss ideas and do the planning. This takes an amount of commitment that not a lot of people are willing to put. And so I have to say that you guys do an amazing job at doing this. And I'm not saying this because I'm a guest and because we're friends. I really do think so. And I really respect everything that you guys are doing. And so I just wanted to
bed now, yeah.
No, I just wanted to say
Fabio.
it. I just wanted to say it because, you know, like, from those who are maybe watching from home, they think, yeah, we're sitting down and we're making a video. I've been part of your meetups where you discuss ideas. I've been there looking at you planning. There is a lot of work in doing this. And, you know, I know that it's time that you have to invest of your own. If there wasn't a passion, if there wasn't an interest, a personal interest in seeing the industry thriving, I think that an event like this one would not be possible. And so again, guys, props to you for putting this up.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Fabio.
Thanks, Fabio. I think most of the thanks have to go to
now I go to bed.
Simon and Nigel.
Yeah, I take back everything I said about your hat.
Yeah, that's bad.
I'm concerned about Tom. And you seem to have gone silent.
Talking about cutting our commitment short, I've got to go.
You got to go.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kristian.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Kristian.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
I'll speak soon.
There's some rather concerning chat on the Zoom meeting here. They've all just said Simon started talking, so suggest everyone goes. I mean,
not everyone.
Simon, I think you should be quite offended about that. It's clearly not talking about me.
Yeah.
I don't know how they can be so rude about our guests. Honestly, guys, craziness.
Hey, other side.
I don't want to talk much longer tonight, but I just want to wrap it up and just feel quite touched that you said that, Fabio. Thank you. Yeah. After killing my spaghetti making moves last month.
Oh no, go back to the past, please don't.
I'm sorry, Ioanna. But no, it's been easy. It's actually, to answer your question, it's actually been easy. And I think that's the reason why everyone loves 3DS London, is because we're all lucky enough to do a job that we enjoy. So to organise a monthly event about something you enjoy, it's not really been that difficult. So I certainly don't want to sit here and accept loads of unwarranted praise, because it's been a pleasure. You know, for 15 years, it's been really easy. It's been really easy to do. It's definitely been made easier for the past 3 or 4 years since I roped Nigel in and got him to do everything as well. So.
Well, I think it's important that we keep the community going and keep it alive, and remind people that here's a nice, safe place to come once a month, and that I think from what I've learned over the last 2 years working with other people trying to replicate 3DS London around the world, is the the local communities have to get over the fact that you're all competitors, and it's fine to all be competitors in the same room, because you're not all there trying to outmaneuver one another, trying to steal each other's staff. You're not all trying to, you don't own your staff.
Oh God, he's talking about the Southern Hemisphere.
And I'm talking about lots of places, but I think that's where our community has matured to the stage where people they go along for a drink and have a chat and have a laugh, and there's a little bit of business that may or may not go on, but it's really comes down to that. Maybe it's just that Londoners like to go out and have a drink.
That's probably it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That is definitely it.
And maybe it just comes down to the alcohol. I think we didn't mention before, but anyone who's actually tuned in who wanted to make a cocktail with Nikos tonight, we've skipped that. You're going to have to make something doubly special for next month.
Absolutely. I will find my way.
Can we do like Fabio's pasta cutting next month?
Can mix cocktails and pasta.
Great.
Oh, I can't wait.
If you have to cut the pasta, you might as well drink it.
Oh no.
We're not cutting the pasta.
Cool. So, Simon, great presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was an honest pleasure.
Shall we wrap up then this evening?
Yeah, it was a good one. Thanks everyone who watched us and who participated. It means a lot. It was a great show. Lots of laugh and lots of pasta talk, which I loved. Yeah, and maybe we say goodbye now.
Okay, well, we'll be back next month. More presentations. We're talking of maybe starting a debate, and actually, instead of us just banging on about stuff, we may actually set subjects and actually debate that. So
Nigel, people love watching you and me bang on and on and on.
Nobody
and
likes
on
watching
and on
two
about
old white men
Why are they
banging on about rubbish of the old days.
Your hair. Goodness gracious me.
You're so loved up tonight. I'm wondering what's going on. It's all that. It's a cycling on your electric bike, I'm sure.
Oh, I haven't even shown you that. Oh, don't even get me. I'm not boasting about that on YouTube, but goodness me, Nigel. Goodness me.
Well,
you can't cycle on an electric bike. That's just a moped.
I'm going to argue with you later, Simon.
Just saying on the chat that if anyone wants to continue and you wanted to jump on over to Zap's Twitch channel for a bit of music, then go ahead and do that. He'll take requests. He very much loves requests from us, so I recommend going and doing that. Right. Let's call it a night. Thank you very much, everyone. See you next month.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.